Mr. Karthik, can you elaborate your question, please?
So I have means I have done one program and I have to open new file means for new program. It's not opening.
I guess you need an actual, you need a file that is in a new file, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, uh, I'll share the screen now and I'll tell you how this works. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. So now there are a few ways to create a new file. So let's say you have a project in PyCharm. You basically have to create a project first. So let's say if you have a project and you want to create a file inside of a folder or a project, you basically right click the folder, which basically opens this complete thing. Then you go to new, and then there's file, new sketch file, and all of these. All right. Now let's say you need to create a file which does not need to have a specific location. Okay, so you go to file, you go to new sketch file, and you basically select, let's select Python, and that opens a new sketch file. Otherwise, there are not a lot of ways to create such files because PyCharm requires you to create uh, Python, let's say a Python project basically, because as you can see, this is a Python project and it stores all of its external libraries inside the location. All right. So let me just remove the sketch files. Okay, you can use sketch files for tests and stuff, but otherwise if you need to create a new file in any location, you basically open this window using right click or your um, keyboard key. There's a keyboard key, and then you go to new, and then there's a bunch of options you can select from, right? So is this clear, Mr. Karthik?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so let's start the session, and let me just, yeah. So today we'll basically be starting with uh, web scraping. All right. Now this is a really important topic for web development because when we go to web development, we'll be using various HTML tags, and I think I'll take a session to explain uh, the important tags. But for now, let's just focus on what we have. So when you go to web development, you will have to write a very basic HTML code, right? Then you will have to pass in arguments from within your program to those HTML files. So you need to basically study what an HTML file consists of, right? And to do that, scraping is like the best option, because let's say you need to scrape this file. All right, this is a special website which is specially made to be scraped only. As you can see, this says codes to scrap. All right, this was specially made to practice scraping. All right, so uh, for all our scraping needs in this uh, class, we'll be using this website, right? This website. Second, let me just share the whole window, otherwise it will not be visible. Share the screen and the entire screen. Yeah, I start over because I was basically only sharing a window. So as you can see right here, right, it says codes.toscript.com. All right. So this was specifically made to for people to practice scripting. Right. So I'll show you what I was talking about with the HTML. So we basically right click at any space and we go to view page source. Right. And as you can see, this complete document is what this is about. Right. This complete document defines how this will look. Right. So let's say if I can, let me see if I can edit this file. Right. So let's say if I remove this, I don't know if I can remove this. Right. Yeah, so I cannot remove this basically. So let's say if this is not here, this entire thing is not here, this title, uh, codes to scrap, would disappear, right? So you will need to study uh, basic HTML to be able to scrap uh, various websites, and I guess we'll try scraping Wikipedia in the next class, but for now we'll stick with this. All right. So um, let's say, yeah, this is the h1 tag and this is the closing h1 tag. All right. So let me just create a new file. Let's say temp.txt. Like basically HTML has only a single component, let's say, and these are called tags. All right. Now the tags are the most important part of HTML. Basically, tags are everything in HTML. All right. For example, this is a tag. This is a tag. Now, tag is defined between these. All right. And there are two types of tags. There's a closing tag, and there's an I guess I don't remember the name, but there are two types of tags that need to be closed and that do not need to be closed. Right? I do not remember these names. For example, let's say this link tag. All right. Now, how do we know if something is a tag? A tag always starts with this uh, thing. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, with this and ends with this. All right. So this is a tag. Now as you can see, for example, here this is h1 tag and this is a slash h1. Now what the slash specifies is that this is a tag that needs to be closed. All right. Basically, this defines the region which will be affected by the h1 tag. All right. So this part which is inside the h1 tag will be affected by the tag, and let's inside the a tag here also, this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag, and everything within those tags will be affected by this. Right. Now let's say this. All right. This does not have a closing tag. All right. So uh, this does not basically define a boundary of the things it will affect. All right. This is what a closing tag, let's call them closable and non-closable. I do not exactly remember the names, but yeah. So this is a closable tag and this is a non-closable tag, right? Okay. Now that's one thing. Now let's say you have let's say 10, 20, 30 h1 tags, all right, or let's say div tags. Now how do you differentiate one tag from any other tag? Right. Uh, Let's say when you apply styling to them with CSS. Let's say you want to apply a special style to a specific part of the website and not the other part of the website, right? So, and both of those part of the websites, just yeah, and both part of the websites are basically defined within those div tags. So how do you differentiate those tags? Right. So we use something called class, and there's another thing called ID. We do not have ID here, but there's another thing called ID. Right. So you differentiate similar tags by using something called classes and IDs. Now, classes are a special let's identifier which separates this div from this div or any other div. Let's say this div from this div. Right now, classes can be reused. Let's say this is a class container, so this can also have a class container. That is no issue. But there's another thing called IDs. All right. Now, IDs are specific and unique. All right. So let's say if this has an ID, I cannot put in an ID here, but let's say this is an ID of 27, 28, 29, or any string also. Now, any other tag in the entire document or in the entire website, let's say, cannot have the same ID. All right. Now, uh, basically revise what I said. HTML consists of tags. There are two types of tags: closing tags and sorry, closable tags and not closable tags. This is not the official. Uh, this is not the official name. This is what I just used to remember them. All right. This is a closable tag, and this is a non-closable tag. All right. And then there's uh, attributes like classes. This is an attribute. Class is an attribute. And let's say a has a compulsory attribute called href, right? And then there's IDs. All right. So every tag has some attributes. Now they can be compulsory or non-compulsory attribute. For example, a here has a compulsory href attribute. Like the style attribute is basically inline CSS and is not compulsory. Like for example, this class tag is not compulsory. And let me see if there are some compulsory tags. I cannot find any compulsory tags, but yeah. So HTML has tags, closable and non-closable. Uh, every tag has some attributes which can be necessary and not necessary, or the required or non-required. Right. Now, what scraping? Just wait a second. Okay. Now, what scraping basically does is it basically downloads this entire file. All right. This complete file, it not downloads, but basically caches the entire code, entire source code from the website, and then looks for specific tags. All right. Let's say it looks for. It basically doesn't look for. We tell it to look for basically, but yeah, you get the thing. So let's say we ask it to grab all the A tags. Right, so it will grab all the A tags, and if I ask it to grab the div tag, it will grab the div tag. All right. So this is what basically web scraping is. All right. Web scraping is a program which can uh, grab the source code from a website and look for specific tags inside them, and extract various kind of data from them. Right. So Before I start an example, let's say, if anyone has any doubt, they can ask me. Yeah, I guess there are no doubts. So let's start with the live example. Right. So first of all, yeah, I think before I start, how many of you know how to install, let's say, uh, external modules using pip? How many of you know pip? Basically, if you know pip, you will know how to install something. Because what I'm going to teach you is an external library and is not basically available um, with the core Python. So please be quick and reply. Otherwise, I'll just assume you guys know what pip is and how to install external libraries for Python. And I see no, Miss Nilian, we can use Beautiful Soup, but it is basically a lot of work. Beautiful Soup is basically uh, code. It is a library. It is not a framework. That we will be using a ScrapI, which is a framework, and it does most of the work for us. But I guess on Monday I can show you what Beautiful Soup is. But Beautiful Soup is a lot of work because you will have to define special files for database handling and stuff, which would be very tedious. And we are only here to grasp the important stuff. All right, so we'll be using ScrapI. Right. So coming back to the question, how many of you do not know pip? Let me change the question. How many of you do not know pip? PIP, pip. Alrighty, I see no responses, but still. So yeah, let me just move on to back and let's go to talking about the screen. Yeah. So pip is basically used to download external libraries into Python. All right. So let me show you the list. Basically, do is you type pip and the command that follows inside it. Right. Just yeah. It says pip and list, which basically grabs us all the packages that are inside a Python library. Right. So as you can see, the packages I have are ATTRS, which is a ScrapI dependency, I think. Then there's Automat. Then there's Beautiful Soup, as we were discussing. Then we go down, and yeah, and there's ScrapI. This is what we'll be using. Now, many of you may not have ScrapI installed in your system, so you can just install it by using pip install ScrapI or Scrappy and press enter. Now, this will require data and an active internet connection, and it would just do its stuff, and the execution finishes. If there are no errors, this ScrapI is successfully installed. And if you want to test, you can basically just type pip list and uh, search for the module. Yeah. So let's just use the shell method script codes.py. So we'll say scrapI shell http the name uous codes.to spec.com. we are inside the file now, inside the website now. So I'll just go to the top and just explain what I did. Right. So I did scrapeye shell, which is a scrapeye specific command. It can only be used if you have scrapeye installed in your system. All right. So it says scrapeye shell and the website you want to scrape. Right. So it will do its stuff, and to check if you're successfully connected, you basically will see this. Right. This 200. Now this is the basically success code. As many of you must have seen, there's a 404 code when there's a web page that is not existent in the website. Similarly, 200 is a success code, right? So now this is the available ScrapeEye objects, but we'll be just using one for now. And this is the right. So first of all, uh, as I was saying, this is the available ScrapeEye objects. All right. We have the ScrapeEye module. We have the crawler, which we'll use in a bit. Then we have item. Item is defined when you uh, need to store the data. Then there's request. We requested the website, and this is the request object, and this is the response object. Right. So you have to check the request and response. These should be request should have a get in the start, and response should have a 200 in the start, which is the successful. If there's a 404, which means this would mean that the response, the request did not go through successfully, and the object was not returned. So we'll basically be using request to scrape the request object to scrape the website. Right. So we'll go to page source again, and as you can see, this is a head tag, and this is the title tag. Right. So we'll for now grab the title. We'll grab this part. Right. So we'll go this cons.css. Now we're using CSS because we'll be grabbing data based on the CSS selectors. But there's also the XPath method, which is rarely used. So I'll be not covering that. All right. So we go response.css, and now response is the object that is returned to us. All right. This source code, this entire source code, is inside this response object. Now we go response.css, then double quotes, and the tag you want to get. So I want to get the title tag. Like I go title and I close the bracket. Wait a second, please. I think I lost connection. I'll get back to you. Yeah, so supposedly I lost connection for some reason. And can anyone tell me at what point uh, did I lose the connection? Or what was the last thing I was explaining so I can start from there? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so I would need someone to come up and tell me at what point did I lose connection so I can explain the lost part again. Um, okay, extracting the title. So we completed extracting the title part. So let's start with that now. So I guess we did until this part. All right, we took out the title, and I was telling you how small this code is. All right, this entire code is what will be used. This code, only this code, with around 28 lines, including the spaces, will be used to extract all the data from that website. All right. Uh, on the other hand, with the VS4 or Beautiful Soup 4, you would have to get the website, then filter the result, basically to remove the data, then grab the tag, then grab the then filter the tag based on the class you want, and then get the data, put that into the database yourself, which is a uh, which would be a very long and tedious program. So this is what the difference between a framework and a library is. Right. So for today we'll just try scraping more stuff. So we'll go back to Scrapify and let's scrape the what can we so let's scrape all the anchor tags. Alright, we'll scrape this. We'll scrape. This is also an anchor tag. Right? We'll scrape this. We'll scrape this and all of the anchor tags. Right. So we again go this fonts.css. Now what we wanted to extract, right? We wanted to extract the A tag. Okay. Now what do we extract? What do we want to extract from the A tag? Let's say for starters, we'll only extract the text part. The text part of an anchor tag is this, this. All right, and there, and this should work. Yeah, as you can see, got scripts to code, which is the title, which is also an anchor tag. Right, then we got the login from here, then the about, which is also an anchor tag. Then these are the tags, right? So this is how easy it is to basically do all of this, do actual scraping, and let's just move out for now. So let's just move out for now and let's start with the actual script. So I'll move on to this folder and I'll say scripty start project, and then let's call it work. It is basically doing its thing, and we should get a folder soon as soon as it refreshes. Yeah, we got the tutorial part, and as you can see, these files are already here. All right, now I'll explain these files now. Okay, so we'll start with the items.py file. As you can see, this is empty right now. Now this is used to create special containers for the scrap data so they can be easily put into databases. All right, we'll talk about this when we reach there. Now this is the middleware. All right, this does all of this stuff. All right, this does all the extracting, cleaning, and stuff based on the command we give it. All right, then there's pipelines. This is used to put the stuff we took into databases. All right, so I guess I have this here. Right. This and paste it into the spider soon, but this is this is basically the steps of scripting. Right, you basically take the script data, right, and put them into the item containers. Right, the item containers are this part, and then if you do not want to save them into databases, you can get them as JSON. All right, I guess they are commands which I'll explain in the next class. All right, but if you want to save them into databases, the data all the data automatically goes into the pipeline.py, this part, and this is where we define our database commands. All right, now uh, as I asked you earlier, you need to be somewhat fluent with the create commands of the databases. Otherwise, you will not understand what is going on here. All right, and then this goes into the database. Right. So I guess for now I'll explain the code and we'll create a spider in the next class because there are only 15 minutes. Right. So as I was saying, when creating a new spider, right, the spiders are created inside the spider folder. First of all, as you can see, this is the tutorial class. This is the tutorial package. Right, anything with an init file in it is a Python package. Right. Then there's this spiders in every website has a unique uh, project, right, or a unique spider, and then you define your spiders here, right? And this is what a spider file would basically look like. You would first import the scripty thing, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about items. And then you define a class with whatever the name you like. I was scraping the code's website, so I basically called it code spider, and then you inherit from the scrapy.spider library. All right, so this is what basically does all of the stuff for you. When you inherit this, as I told you, class inheritances. This basically puts in extra code inside this class with, and that extra code basically passes the data into uh, the items file, and from the items file using the middleware into pipeline and then into databases. All of this is managed by this class. All right. Now there are two important variables that need to be uh, declared with the same name. Right. It cannot be names or spider name or anything. It has to be name is equal to your spider, your name of the spider. Now this can be anything. All right. Now the second variable is start underscore URLs with the exact name equals to and the website you want to scrape. Right. Now this is the starting part. Then you define a parse function which takes self and response. Now this response is the same we talked about here. All right. This function will be called automatically because of uh, inheriting this function will be called automatically, and the response object will be also passed automatically. All right. So I'll just run all of these commands here. Now as I was saying, right, maybe again. Right, so I do this, I copy this, and I'll run this here so you can see what it grabs. And as you can see, it grabs this entire thing. All right, this selector path, this the data part, which is div class code. Now let's look at this in our source code. All right. First of all, I asked for div underscore code. So it goes here. It looks for a division, a div with the class code. All right. Now it got the code, and then takes it extracts this entire part from where the div starts to where the div ends. All right, and it does this for all of the class with the name code. As I was telling you, this class and this class are identical for the spider. And by the spider, I mean the program that is scraping the website right now. Right, so this class is completely identical for the spider. Like, so it grabs a lot of stuff. What it basically does is it grabs this part, all right, puts it into a list, then it goes down, then it gets this in the list, and then it goes down, and it does the same until it cannot find the code class under division again. All right, so all of that is stored under all div codes, and because it's a list, we use a for loop to go through all of them. What basically happens is the for loop, the code part, or that this code part is basically this entire thing. All right. So then we define it. Then we define it a little more. We say title is equals to code. All right. From this part dot css, then I look for a spam tag with the class text. All right. So I go to the spam tag. I go to the spam tag only for this part. All right, am because I extracted this part, and from this extracted part, I'm looking for a tag called span with the class text. All right, and from that, I want to grab the text part. Right, so it goes here, it looks at this, it meets the condition, this part meets the condition, and it grabs the text, this entire thing. Right, and then it saves it into the title, and then we move on. We then ask for a small tag with the class author, and then an anchor tag with the class tag. Right, so it goes to a, and this is the class tag, and then it gets the text part. Right. So we do this. We put this into containers. We'll study them when we get to items, and then it yields it. Right. It does not returns it. It yields it. Now, what yields means is it returns the item, but the execution does not stop. Right. Let me, I guess, show you an example. What yield does. Right. Python file test. Let's say define generator, and I'll say yield 1, yield 2, and yield 3. Right. So I guess then I can say print. Let's come out of this for now. And next of generator. Yes, this should work. Be sure because generator functions are rarely used. Okay, I only want to. This is running an entirely different file, and I want to close this. I'll go to the terminal, do this myself, clean the screen. I'm in script tutorial, so I'll just run Python test.py, and it says 1. Alright, then I say print next, generate generator, and then I run this again, and it prints 1 and 1. Right, this. So what this does is basically I should have done this. I should have just called a is equals to generator, and then next of a, then next of a again, and then print next of I again with the database program for some reason. I'll go here again, and I'll run this. As you can see, this printed 1, 2, and 3. All right. So what a generator function is, basically any function that uses the yield keyword instead of the return keyword is called a generator function. First of all, now what yield does is when a yield object, so when a generator object is created, when you say next, all right, let's say print next, next called once. Let me just copy this, print this, and print this, and then I print twice and twice. Right, so I do this. Yes, for some reason cannot run this, and then do this. Right. So what happens is we created a generator function variable, let's say, and now whenever I say next of a, all right, what it does is it stops at the point it sees yield, all right, and it stops here. Okay, now in return, when you return something after the execution, the pointer returns here, all right, the logical pointer, not the actual pointer. The logical pointer returns here, but in yield it stays here until either a new object is created or the next is called again. So when we call next again, it moves from here, does this, and stops at the yield part again, and then we call next again, and then it stops at yield again. Right. So what is happening here right now is we created this container, and we returned this container here. All right. So what happens is, in the background, as I was telling you, this thing. All right. This class, this inherited class, basically runs some stuff in the background with the item that is yield. All right. So the item is yield. It does some stuff, and then it calls the next. Uh, then it calls the function again using next. All right. So the pointer was here, and as it is in the for loop, it goes over again, then over again, then over again, until all of these stuffs are done. All right. So this is how scraping works. Now this part is used for going to the next link. All right. We'll look into this a little later, but let's see if I can print it. Right. Print items. Right. And the scraper tutorial, I have to go into code tutorial. Visible filling. And I say goodbye, crawl, and then the spider name. The spider name is UUOTS. Right? It's running, it's doing its stuff. Right? Now it will take some time because it's scraping the entire data of the website. And because of because I did not comment this part, it is going to the next page and then to the next page until it cannot find any more pages. All right. So we're done with scraping. We'll go up and we'll study what we did right now. Right. Go up. As you can see, there's a lot of scrape data, and this is why websites like Amazon have a, let's say, scraping security, because this can overload the server. Right. So the command to run a scraping program is basically scrapy crawl and then the name of your spider. Right. So this part remains same, and this part remains, and this part changes based on what is the name of your spider. All right. So it basically goes here, and this is all the connecting stuff. Right. So as you can see, this, as I was telling you, the scraper, what it does is it basically runs middlewares, which handles the cookies, the redirects, the proxies, and then it goes down. And this is where the connection part ends at 200, and this is where the scraping starts. All right. So as you can see, we are at this part for now. But as you can see, it has a dictionary which has various keys and items in it. So the first dictionary has the author key, which is Albert Einstein. The tags are these, and the title is this. All right. This is the title. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. All right. And this is what this is exactly. All right. Now it scrapes this, then it does it again, it does it again, it does it until the end is reached. All right. So yeah, and when it reaches the end of the page, because of this code right here, which I'll explain to you when we do this, what it does is it then goes to the next page and gets the next page. All right. And then it prints all of this, then all of this, and all of this. Come on, move. And then it closes the spider. Alright, now this must be saved in my database if I have a database with me. Okay, the database is here, and all of this is stored in the my codes.db part because of this thing. Let's say here, because of this pipelines.py, right? So this is what basically scraping looks like. We'll write a program from scratch tomorrow, right? To do this exact same process, and then we'll go. Yes, tomorrow we can scrape Wikipedia because you can see this is a very simple website to scrape, and this only gives a little experience. So I guess tomorrow we'll create a Wikipedia scraper, and we'll try to scrape Wikipedia tomorrow. Okay, and yeah, that's it for today. If anyone has any doubt regarding the session, they can ask me now. And please take the attendance.
Yes, sir, done.
Okay. So if nobody has a doubt, they can leave. And thank you very much.